Hello, everyone, and welcome to nDatalyze Corporation's live intro webinar. This is David Vidala from RBMG. nDatalyze is listed on the CSE under the symbol NDAT and on the OTCQB under the symbol NDATS. Joining us today is the company's president and CEO, Jim Durward, who will be going through nDatalyze's May investor presentation. This will include an overview of current operations, recent achievements, and upcoming milestones. At the end of the presentation, we will open it up for questions for management to address. If you are interested in asking a question and are logged into the Zoom app or web platform, you can submit your questions to us directly in the chat module. Please note, this presentation is being recorded today, Wednesday, June 1st, 2022, and will soon be made available on the company's website at nDatalyze.com. Today's call may contain forward-looking statements that are subject to risks and uncertainties that may cause actual results, performance, or developments to differ materially from those contained in the statements and are not guarantees of future performance of the company. No assurance can be given that any of the events anticipated by the forward-looking statements will occur, or if they do occur, what benefits the company will obtain from them. Also, some risks and uncertainties may be out of the control of the company, and nDatalyze has a full disclaimer on page 2 of their presentation. Lastly, RBMG is not a registered investment advisor or broker-dealer. For more information, please visit rbmilestone.com. And now I'll hand it off to Jim. Jim, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. Thank you for the introduction, Dave. As Dave said, I'm the president of nDatalyze Corporation. Without further ado, let's begin. Did you know that it's estimated that 40% of the population will develop some sort of mental affliction by the time they're 40 years old? That's quite a statistic. And that is a statistic that you may have heard in the media, because the media likes to talk about that statistic. But there's a serious problem with that statistic. And that problem causes serious consequences, or carries serious consequences to both personal mental health and the overloaded mental health system generally. So what is that problem? Well, let's go through the obligatory forward-looking statements disclaimer. The U.S. National Library of Medicine has found that misdiagnosis rates for many common mental conditions are greater than 65%. And a study from Johns Hopkins suggests that more than 60% of all people who receive a diagnosis of major depression don't actually have it. And if diagnoses are wrong over half the time, what happens to all the misdiagnosed people who take misprescribed drugs? Unwanted side effects and newly developed conditions that further tax the overloaded mental health system. It's a never-ending circle that feeds on itself. So if misdiagnosis is the root problem, what causes it and how can it be fixed? So the causes, as you can see here on the screen, there are 4 main causes and a combined cause. The first and most important is the lack of objective evidence-based data. In the physical health world, if you think there's something wrong with you, you go to your doctor. Typically what will be prescribed at that point or ordered at that point is a blood test or a urine test, and they will be sent off to a lab, and the composition of the blood and the urine will be measured quantitatively by scientific instruments. And that provides objective evidence-based data. In the mental health world, you don't have any of that. What you've got is subjective data. This is, you have a person asking you to self-analyze or self-report on how you feel. What do you think about this? How do you feel about that? And the answers to those questions can change minute by minute, day by day, week by week. There is no objective evidence-based quantifiable data based on the way it's done today. And that is a fundamental problem. Then you have the interpretive bias of the clinician. Any clinician has multiple patients, but they don't have all patients. They have their patients. And what happens is they develop an opinion or a point of view, a diagnosis based on the comparison of your position to their to their other patients. And that creates a bias because you've only got one opinion. All people, everybody on this planet has bias. And the bias is based on what they carry in their memories and their experiences. And that causes a flow to one way or the other, and it limits what the accuracy can be by any single clinician. Then you have the lack of deep correlation. When a clinician is generating a diagnosis, that clinician is calling on his database, his or her database, and doing comparisons of what you are exhibiting and what you're self-reporting to what they have in their memories. The problem with that is that, well, humans are very, very good at abstract thought. They're not good at very deep execution of correlations. And this is where machine learning comes in, because machines are set up specifically to do that. You have the humans that are good at the abstract thought, and you have the machines that are good at grunt force calculations. You want to be able to combine those. But if you just have the human without the machines, then you can't have deep correlation. The next factor is this distractions and lack of time. We've all seen the picture on TV or the image on TV where somebody's lying on a couch, there's a clinician tapping on their watch going, your time is up. And so they just don't have the time to go into deep correlation and go into deep analysis. They also have calls from their children, and their dog's got to go to the veterinarian. They got this and they got that. They have distractions in their own life. And these factors contribute to, again, lack of deep correlation. When you add all of these factors together, you end up with what I refer to as an outdated analog process. Take a look at the numbers at the top of the screen in red. 71%, 66%, 86%, 93% misdiagnosis rates. How can that be? And the reason for that is all of these factors. It's very difficult to have confidence in a diagnosis when you know that like the National Institute of Health and Johns Hopkins are telling us this, highly credible sources. So we'll go to the next slide. So what did we do about this? Well, we created a product called YMI. YMI is an expert system that uses machine learning to predict probabilities of personal mental health conditions. We cover 7 different of the main popular, maybe popular is the wrong word, but the main diagnosed mental conditions. The purpose of this system, which is based on objective data, not subjective data, and it is using machine learning to do all of its deep correlations. But the purpose of this is to assess and manage mental health risks. This is a proactive approach as opposed to the current reactive approach. We want to get in front of the problem as opposed to treating the problem after it's fully developed. We want to provide the person with mental health security, knowledge, clarity, the ability to understand who they are, why they are, and where they are in relation to the population generally. By doing that, we believe that we can help develop a healthy mind and a thriving life. So what's inside our expert system? Well, I like to think of it as a human-machine hybrid. Like a human, we have to have memories and experiences. Think about yourself. As you developed as a human being, as you went through life, you gathered experiences. You took it in through your senses, you took it in through your food. Everything that went into your body contributed or does contribute to the way you are today. That's YMI. So what we want to do here is we want to create a set of memories. And so what we did is we went out and we gathered up in excess of 1,200 people, multiple age groups, diversified ethnicities, and we gathered a series of informational aspects from them. We have genetic expressions. This is simple stuff like eye color, hair color, skin type, any kind of inherited diseases, illnesses, or afflictions. We go through your childhood development with a whole bunch of different questions. We look at the traumas that you've experienced in your life, the allergies that you experience. We look at doctor-diagnosed illnesses, and that includes mental health diagnoses. We look at your physical conditions going through life and where you are today. We look at your lifestyle choices. Do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you eat too much? Do you not exercise? All of this kind of thing. And we create a biometric signature from you. Then for all of those people, we gathered brainwave data or EEG data at the same time of day between 9 and noon. And that allowed us to correlate, or allowed the machines to correlate all of your biometric background signatures with your actual brain, what's actually going on inside your head. And this creates a highly educated or highly informed database. And that creates the memories that the human machine hybrid is going to rely upon. You can have all the memories in the world. You can have all the experiences in the world. If there's something wrong with your processor, you're not going to get much out of it. So we needed to develop an expert processor. And what we did is we contracted a series of very, very highly experienced mental health clinicians to score every single answer in our questionnaires with 0 to 3 scores related to relevance to a variety of different mental conditions, 7 mental conditions in our case. So they went through, there's 250 questions, there's 900 potential answers. They went through every single answer individually and scored those answers to their relationship to all these different mental conditions. Inside the 1,200 person database, there were also a series of third-party clinicians that had diagnosed various mental conditions. So the system, as it was built, became sort of a self-testing mechanism, because as you went through, you wanted to find out when you're calibrating the system whether you could capture these various different mental conditions, not only from our expert contractors, but also from the third party that clinicians that had nothing to do with us. So we did all that, we put all that together, and we generated an expert system that we refer to as YMI. This is not a trivial system. It is very complex, it is very deep, it is very fast, and it does everything exactly the same way every time. So who developed this? Well, I'm the primary developer. I have a long history in data science, database building, full stack development. I have a significant amount of experience in image analysis, pattern recognition. Pattern recognition is, of course, very important in this. As far as our clinicians are concerned, Dr. Carol Mellick is a psychologist with decades of experience. Dr. Keith Courtney, double certified psychiatrist. Dr. Kelty Duggins, an MD, and then Dr. Andrea Protzner, who gave us guidance to the EEG interpretations, particularly related to major depressive disorder. So we have a significant amount of talent behind us. Where are we going with this? There's a movement out there in the world called the mHealth market. mHealth consists of a variety of different products and services. You've probably heard of many of these. You may have some of these. There's the wearables, such as the Apple Watches, Fitbits, EKG monitors. These are things that tell you what goes on in your life right now, today. Then we have the DNA test kits, 23andMe, Ancestry. These are products that tell you what your genetic makeup makes you predisposed for. We have brainwave monitors that also allow you to perform neurofeedback for the purpose of calming your mind or changing the way you think about things. Blood pressure monitors. We also have telehealth. Telehealth is a big deal nowadays, and very often when you talk about mental telehealth, what you're actually seeing is an intake device to funnel people into online psychiatric services. So they will give you a short questionnaire. They'll say, oh, you've got some tendency toward anxiety. Sign up for this $200 a month on-demand telehealth service. That's typically what goes on in the telehealth world. So this is the market that we go after. Our market is actually twofold. We have the consumer mHealth market, which is what we're discussing here. And then we have the clinician market. And we'll get into that in a moment. So how big is the mHealth market? Today, it's about $50 billion. And in the next few years, they expect that it's going to run up to about $130 billion, a significant growth rate. Interestingly, if you take a look at the chart on the right, The light blue bars, those are mHealth apps. YMI is an mHealth app. So the wearables that are down on the bottom in dark blue, you're not seeing a tremendous amount of growth in that. All of the projected growth, or most of the projected growth, is in the application market. So that's the market that we're going into. It's a very big market. It's worldwide. There's nothing niche about it. Mental health and health generally applies to every single person on the planet. So how is mental health diagnosed today? About 2 weeks ago, I went into my doctor's office with the sole purpose of trying to find out how she, who's just an MD, has no particular psychiatric training, is a general practitioner. So I went into her office and I said, I'm not feeling quite right, and I wonder if maybe there's something I can do about that. So I asked her how she would do that. And she said, well, I'll give you this questionnaire and we'll look at the questionnaire. And I said, how many questions are in the questionnaire? And she says, oh, about 20 questions. And it's a subjective questionnaire. She would ask me questions like, how do you feel? And how does this make you feel? Do you feel better today than you did yesterday? Do you feel better this month than you did last month? And that is the self-reporting. And based upon that, she was prepared to prescribe drugs. Now that's a problem because she doesn't know anything about my background. I've been to that doctor many, many times, and I don't think I've ever been asked more than 10 questions ever in there. But yet, there are drugs prescriptions that are made based on those subjective answers. So again, that being one of the bigger problems. But that refers to the second and third columns, the HAM-D, which is the Hamilton Depression Inventory, and BDI, which is the Beck Depression Inventory. Look at the number of questions, 17 questions, 21 questions. The DSM level 1 has more questions, but still only 23. And then, of course, you can go directly to the clinician without doing any tests and start your analysis, which will take many, many months and cost many, many dollars. At the far end of the scale, we have something that's more directly comparable to what we offer. But instead of using correlation with EEG data, they correlate brain imagery using, I'll use the term MRIs. And if you want to go and see these people at Amen Clinics, it's $3,500 US just to enter the door. And it goes up from there. If we go back to the YMI column, we go down through a series of things. The first one is anonymous data. Mental health carries a stigma, and people don't like to admit, or certainly not widely, that they have some kind of mental health illness. So the idea of being able to do something anonymously is very, very important. We can do that. Small questionnaires can do that because you can do them at home. But the idea of anonymity is important. The number of questions analyzed. We have 250 questions ranging all the way from genetic expressions all the way through to current lifestyles. Again, you go across that line and you see the number of questions that are involved in that, and nobody even really comes close to that. The number of conditions that we address, 7 different conditions. Only when you get over to DSM or clinician visits or Amen clinics do you find that you've got multiple conditions that you can talk about. Again, objective data, the most important thing of all. As a matter of fact, that is so important that the National Institute of Mental Health rejected the DSM. Now, the DSM is the Diagnostic Manual of Mental Illnesses, and it is the Bible of the psychiatric industry. And the National Institute of Mental Health rejected it because it doesn't rely on objective data. So the DSM is under fire right now. And again, that is the Bible of the psychiatric industry. Biometric correlation. Do we correlate all aspects? When you have 900 potential answers to those 250 questions, if you take the number of combinations possible with 900 answers, it's in the billions. Humans can't do that. It's as simple as that. No human can do that, not even close. But machines are purpose-built for doing exactly that. And then we correlate with brain correlation. And so we take not only what your lifestyle says and what your biometric signature is, but we correlate it with what's actually going on inside your head. We include genetic expressions, family history, childhood development, future predictions. This is really, really important. I want to know what my probabilities of having these mental conditions are today but I also want to know what happens if I look forward in time. Let's assume that I'm 25 years old today and I do this test, and it comes out and it says, well, I've got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I don't have any of this. I got a lot of that. And then I want to go down and I want to look at what happens when I go out and I project out over the next 40 or 50 years. If I continue the same lifestyle I'm doing today, where am I going to go with this? What's going to happen based on objective data, not guesswork, objective data run through extensive machine learning processes. We also have a what if capability. Let's say, for example, that I generate a chart, I generate a report, and it comes back and it says, well, I'll use something very obvious. It says that I haven't got alcoholism right now, but by the time that I'm 45, I'm going to be a raging alcoholic if I keep up doing what I'm doing. So I can go back into YMI and I can say, well, what happens if I cut my drinking from more than 15 drinks a week to 3 drinks a week? I start to exercise more, I change my diet, and I do this and I do that. And I can change any one of the answers, any one of the 900 answers I can change. And then I can generate a new report. So before going forward in my life in real time, I can actually project forward with this what if capability and say, if I did this, and this, then suddenly I'm no longer a raging alcoholic when I'm 45 years old. And it will tell me what factors affect that, or show me what factors affect that, again, based on objective data. And we generate graphic reports. We don't just generate a series of numbers. We show you graphically what you're about to experience, or what the probabilities are based on what the data says. Cost, $299 a year. That's a far cry from $3,500. It's a far cry from a lot of different clinician visits and digging through your past to generate a diagnosis. Not to mention the fact that the report itself is generated in less than 40 seconds. So how does it work? Well, the consumer takes the test, 35 to 40 minutes. The answers from the test are given to the machines. The machines do cross-correlation with the reference database, and it generates a series of charts. And you can go back in and self-monitor on a regular basis. This could be looked at in some cases like an annual mental as opposed to an annual physical. It's the kind of thing you would do every year, and as a matter of fact, it is sold on a yearly basis. So going forward, you don't want to just look at yourself today and find out where you are, what the projections are. You want to be able to go forward and incorporate lifestyle changes as you go forward and see where it's taking you. Now, that all said, it's quite possible, because of the what if capability, to see where you could go by making the lifestyle changes before you actually make those changes. But this is typically the procedure. This is what you are presented with. You go through, you do your questionnaire, and you are presented with this graphic chart. Now, this person is quite a bit above the normal range. The dotted line that you see there that runs through the top chart, that is for that person's age group. That is considered the norm. That's the normal person's reaction based on all of these people that we've got in our database, and all of the commonalities and all of the data and all the correlations and all the overrides that go through there. They say that this is what we will refer to as normal. Are you above normal? Are your probabilities higher than normal? Are your probabilities lower than normal? Or where are they? And we use the stoplight scenario where we've got green, yellow, red. And if you're up in the red zone, you're probably, or getting near there, that's probably time for you to go and actually see a clinician, because you've got all of the attributes, or a lot of the attributes that are traditionally present in someone with any one of these conditions. What you see in the second chart is the go forward projection. This person that was in here was in the 21 to 29 age group. Again, we have the dashed line that's running around the 3 level. And this is for anxiety only. Each one of these conditions has a separate chart for it. So there are actually 8 different charts in a report. There's the original chart that you see up front, and then there's a chart by condition and your likelihood going forward of developing this condition. So, and as we can see in the second one here, the person started off high up in the red. As you go forward in life with anxiety, you learn to deal with anxiety more. And as a result of that, the readings become less serious. And then they start to build up a little bit again as you go on further in life. And we don't make this up. I mean, this is the way that the data shows us. And we are, basing all of this on the data itself. Now, if you went back into the questionnaire and changed, remember I talked about alcoholism? If you take a look at the alcoholism, which is the light purple one with the dip in the chart, if you went back in there and changed your drinking habits from 3 drinks a week to 15 drinks a week, and also changed the fact that your mother, who you put in originally as normal, actually is a substance abuser, and your father's a substance abuser, you put that in there, now your alcoholism, whilst it may stay low where you are right now at your young age, you will see it go way up into the red as you age, because alcoholism is cumulative. Anyways, there's a lot of different things that you can do with these charts. There's a lot of different ways that YMI can be used. How do we make money from this? Well, our pricing model is a well-known razor and razor blade model. The razor are annual memberships, $299 for a single report, which is right in the middle of what mHealth products and services cost. We have a very large margin in that. Now that the system is built, our incremental cost to process a new incoming questionnaire report is probably about 50 cents. So we've got a very large margin in that, and by having that large margin allows us to implement high-paid cash referral programs in order to expand and accelerate our penetration. The memberships can be sold on an annual basis or on a monthly basis. Oddly enough, in our market research, I guess maybe this is not odd, but in our marketing research, we found that people that are over 40 want to pay annually, but people that are under 40 want to pay monthly. And that's just the way it is with younger people today. They like the subscription model. Then what happens is, if you decide to go back and want to change some answers in order to see how it affects your trajectories going forward, you can buy reports for $3 a piece. You can go in, you can change your answers, pay your $3, and see what the reports are. You can buy them in packs or singles. You can also share your member ID with other people, keeping in mind that when you do that, you will have to pay for their credits. But you have the option of paying for their credits in order for them to use your member ID in order to generate their own reports, or you can refer them. They buy the membership and you get paid a very hefty cash referral fee. So that is our business model, razor and razor blade. On the charts as well, you will note that over here on the right-hand side in the middle, the yellow band, it speaks to products and services. These are third-party products and services that we can sell through our site. And when we do that, we get paid a fee. This is not our main business. The questionnaires themselves, YMI itself is our product, but we see an opportunity here to also make some money from some third-party products. So we have that built into the system. As far as the administration and the mind of the corporate entity, nDatalyze, I'm the president, I'm the founder, I'm the one that conceptualized and specified YMI. I have a history of database building. We built the database internally. The reason that we did this is because we went out to industry and we went to what are called CROs, or contract research organizations. And I asked them to how much it would cost for them to build the database that we wanted. And based on the numbers that they came back with, it probably would have cost us somewhere in the order of $3 to $4 million and taken at least 2 years to do. We built the database for approximately $700,000 when we did it in 10 months. And that's because I've done it before and I know what I'm doing. Dusan Kuzma, one of our board members, scientific bent. He is someone I bounce things back and forth with. He keeps me from going completely off the deep end with some of my ideas. Dwayne Vink, everybody needs a CFO. I've worked with Dwayne and the next director, Steve Price, before in the past. As a matter of fact, the company that I did my original database building and got my original database experience, and I actually worked with those two. This was well over 10 years ago. And then Gordon Crawford rounds out the board, and he is also a science-bent engineer. Okay, so this is what we've done. March of 21, we raised the project financing. And I want to give you just a hair background on this. When we raised that money, we were looking around for products to expand our growth rate. We were growing, but we weren't growing fast enough as far as I was concerned. So I wanted to do something else, add something else in order to grow. So we started looking at the psychedelic world. And in that world is where I came across these misdiagnosis rates, because a lot of the psychedelic companies, the reason that they exist is to try to develop drugs that don't have negative side effects. They don't go to the source or the cause of the problem, which is misdiagnosis. They allow the misdiagnosis to occur, they allow the misprescription to occur, and then they treat it with a drug that doesn't have bad side effects. But when I saw those misdiagnosis figures, that's what threw me into the idea of using objective data and machine learning to create the diagnosis, the correct or probable diagnosis to try to deal with the misdiagnosis problem. So we raised money based on that. We constructed our original questionnaire and the EEG collection process, and we began to build the database. This is when I got the CRO quotes telling me how much they were going to charge me to do it. And most companies would do that because most companies don't have the experience of building their own databases internally. We started to develop the machine learning and questionnaire development. This was a great treat to me because in my past experience, which I consider to be much more complex than what this is, we had to build it all by hand. It had to be all specified by hand. All of the coding had to be done by hand. All of the correlation was done in SQL. And it was a project that took very close to 10 years to complete. At one point in time, we had 24 computers working 24/7 for almost 2 years just to convert non-computer readable images into computer readable quantitative data. And it went on from there. So I have a very long background in that. Wrote and filed the US patent application, completed the reference database in November of last year, commenced the build out of the website. We did our initial marketing survey, third party, a very experienced marketing company who deals with this particular kind of product. And they came back to us with some very interesting observations as far as age groups and as far as who the target markets were specifically, which by the way is a 31-year-old female is your prime target. So we come back with that kind of thing, but they also came back with what's called UX comments, and these are user experiences. So we had our website completely set up, the system was completely functioning, but it didn't flow correctly. And they pointed it out, saying from a user experience, you need it to flow from here to here, you need it to do this and this and this. So we're just now completing the user experience flow reconfiguration. I've seen it. I saw actually the working sample of it this morning, and that is imminent. So we're looking very good in that regard as far as actually completing it. We are actually projecting that it wouldn't be completed until closer to the end of the year, but I think that we're going to see it very, very soon. In February to April of this year, we finalized the 7 supervised machine learning algorithms and conducted all the testing. This was a wonderful experience to do that, because as you go through and as you're calibrating things, you can calibrate it to catch certain things. And again, what YMI is, I want to be clear about something. YMI does not generate a diagnosis. Diagnoses are only allowed to be generated by registered clinicians. It is a data-based correlation tool that gathers up and does all of the hard work in front of the clinician so that the clinician can focus on the fine-grained aspects of diagnosis. So when we do all of these algorithms, we're not trying to put, I'll use a golf analogy, we're not trying to put the ball in the hole. We're trying to put the ball in the green, but the putting is left up to the diagnostic clinician. So where are we going to go from here? Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to develop the user experience, the UX. That is almost done, very close to being done. We have to design the marketing campaign. We've been going back and forth with the marketing people regarding how we're going to actually market this. Who we're going to market it to. We have a very good idea as to who we're going to market it to. Who are we going to use for influencers? What kind of data channels are we going to be using? What do the advertisements look like? What does the magazine ad look like? What does the television ad look like? What television channels? What time of day? Where does the internet come into this? How do we implement and execute an influencer program? That is all being done by a third-party, very experienced marketing team. Then we will do the market testing. We'll do what's called a geofence market test. The beautiful thing about digital advertising nowadays is that you can target right down to the postal code. So it's possible for us to take a small city and only target that city before we go out wider. By targeting a city and executing our marketing plan within that geographic boundary, we can find out what works, what doesn't work, and refine our marketing approach before we go wide. Toward the end of the year, we will commercially launch YMI. And again, continue to refine and expand the marketing geographics. Q4 of this year, which is not very far away, within 6 months now, we'll have our initial revenues, and then we'll also start the targeted marketing for clinicians. I've spoken to numerous clinicians about this, and they see this, generally speaking, as an excellent intake tool or onboarding tool. It's the kind of thing where they would say to a potential patient coming in the door, the very first thing you do is YMI. And you come in the door and you do YMI so the clinician is fully up to speed just at the same time that the patient comes in the door. And we think there's a very large market there. We believe that clinicians have multiple clients each, and there are a large number of clinicians in Canada and the United States. And by the way, we focus on Canada and the United States for a reason. Mental development has a lot to do with culture, the way that you're brought up. And the way that you're brought up in Canada and the United States is completely different than the way you're brought up in Southeast Asia or Europe. So you can't take the assumptions that you make in Canada and the United States and directly apply them in other big geographies. The only way you could do that is to create a reference database in those other geographies. Fortunately for us, we know how to do that, and we know how to do it very efficiently. So there will come a time when that happens, but right now we're focusing on Canada and the United States. So some market statistics about where we are. Market cap is related to our peers is very inexpensive, runs around $11-12 million Canadian, so less than $10 million US. We will be launching YMI in the latter half of this year. We have extremely tight cash management. To give you an idea of how tight it is, the amount of money that we spent on developing this would have cost other companies many, many, many millions of dollars to do. And we've done the whole thing for just in excess of $1 million, including all the software development, everything. Further to that, I want to impress upon everybody how much my personal interests are aligned with the shareholders. This company started 3 years ago. I don't take a salary. My payoff is in my share position, just like yours would be. I am with you. I'm right beside you, and I can't make money unless you do. Okay, so I'm aligned, and the management of this company is aligned. I own about 10 million shares, which is approximately 25% of the company. And I intend to keep that until such time as the company is very successful, or the company is bought out, and one of those two things. We don't have any debt. I have never been a fan of junior companies having debt, and I remain that way to this day. We have our US patent pending. I don't know when it will happen. All I know is that it's pending, and we will go through the patent prosecution process as normal. We have the proprietary reference database. We own it. We built it. It's ours. The interesting part about that is that it was built in a very specific way to directly relate to health. It was built all the same way. So we don't have a bunch of disparate databases that we don't own, that we have to spend a lot of money trying to normalize and bring together into a common database, and taking them from a variety of different sources with a variety of different methods used to manufacture them. This is a consistent, high value, in-depth database. I believe it's the core asset of the company, actually. I think that no matter what happens, that database is worth quite a bit of money. And it expands over time. Our reference database will sit as it is, but as we have new clients coming on, we add it to a supplementary database, which we can then use to correlate with our reference database in order to grow our opinions over time. And this is important because when we built the database, we built it during COVID, right in the middle of COVID, at the time when anxiety rates, general anxiety rates were up and higher. As we go forward in time, and as we take additional data into the supplementary database and correlate it, what we're going to see is the effect of COVID. We can see societal effects. These are not effects that change every day. These are effects that change over a couple of years, but we'll be able to see a trend line going forward in that. And we're fortunate because by happenstance, we built it during COVID, right in the middle of it. So that's an additional value, I think, that we have there. And down, of course, down below, we have a stock chart. Our stock chart for the last, I believe this is a year, has seen a generally upward trend. If you compare that against most of the junior market, you'll find that this is somewhat of an anomaly. Our chart is actually going up. Most charts are going down. That all said, we're quite happy with the position that we've got right now. We have enough cash in the bank to get us through to where we need to go as far as the launch is concerned. So there's no immediate need for financing. That all said, junior companies, small companies are always on the lookout for like-minded investors who want to be involved in this program. So we're open to that, but we're not actively seeking it. And that is the end of the presentation. So again, thank you all for attending. And now I guess we'll open it up for questions.
Oh, thank you, Jim. That was great. If you are interested in asking a question and are logged into the Zoom app or web platform, you can submit your question to us directly in the chat module. As we wait for the queue to develop, we do have some preliminary questions that we have received. And Jim, if you're ready, we can begin.
Sure.
All right, first question. So why is this better than what's out there, than what's currently out there?
Objective data, simple as that. I mean, if you ask me for one thing, it's that. Objective data allows you to move into a proactive healthcare phase as opposed to a reactive phase or a reactive way that it is right now. You simply can't do that without measurable, quantifiable data. So we built a database, which we refer to internally as our reference database, built, I would say 95% of it is objective data. We have some subjective data, but just minor stuff. Almost all objective data, and that puts us way ahead of everybody else because nobody else does that.
All right, very good, thanks. Second question, what makes you think you know better than a registered clinician?
I don't. I'm a data guy. I use the input of multiple clinicians, not just one, multiple clinicians, that some of which are contracted, some of which came into our database by happenstance by providing their diagnosis of the people that we have in the database. So I rely on their analytical abilities, and I rely on the scoring, the data scoring that I put together, because it's a data issue. How do you convert analog data into digital data? And that's what I have a lot of experience doing that. So I look at this as a data issue. It's got nothing to do with mental health in my mind. It's data. It's just that we're applying it to the mental health scenario. In the past, my past experience, we applied it to the geological scenario, but the process was basically the same. It's a data process. It's not a mental health process in my mind. So regardless of whether I'm a clinician or not is irrelevant.
Great. All right. Thank you. Good answer. Jim, how big is the market?
Well, as I said, right now, the total amount of population between 25 and 45, I think, for males and females, is around 98 million in Canada and the United States. And so that's the overall market. Again, it's the women that are in the middle of that age group, and there's probably about, I'm going to say 25 million of those in that group. There's also the clinicians, which include psychologists, psychiatrists, and general practitioners. And there are over 1 million of those in Canada and the United States. Each one of those, of course, has multiple clients or multiple patients. So the market's very broad. And again, if you want to just look at it in a very wide scale, very broad scale basis, there's not a person on this planet that isn't concerned about their health and their mental health now, because there's so much media attention put to it. It's a very big market.
Okay, I agree. Next question: What makes you think you will penetrate this market?
We have a professional, successful marketing team generating our market plan for us. They're not making it up out of thin air. There are a number of mHealth business models that have been around now for quite some time. One of the oldest ones is probably 23andMe, who started out with a very difficult road to hoe and ended up with 12 million clients and a $4.5 billion SPAC merger last year. I think it was last year. So the business models are actually somewhat well known. We don't have to invent something from nothing. We've got a lot of tools available to us, and again, I leave that to the professionals. We have skill sets internally in this company. Marketing is not one of them. So we go outside and we get the professionals when we need to.
Okay, thank you. A couple more questions. Who would you say are your competitors?
In the objective data world, we don't really have them. Our competitors are just the clinicians who work the way that they do today. All of the some people would say, well, there's people out there that have all of these telehealth services, and I'm going to say telehealth. Telehealth would probably be the biggest competitor. I personally find that some of the telehealth stuff offerings are a little bit misleading. They will drag you in the door using 20 questions or answers to 20 questions, and then funnel you into their $100 a month on-demand psychiatric services before they really even know much at all, again, based on subjective data. So I think that in the objective data world and in the objective machine learning data world, I think we sort of stand out by ourselves. But that doesn't mean that we don't have to compete against the traditional way of doing psychiatric diagnoses. There is a shift going on right now, as we know, because of the rejection of the DSM. There's a shift going on to move from subjective to objective data. I think we're at the head of the curve. I think that there will be followers, but I think we're the front runner at this point.
That's great. Thank you. And final question, and I know you touched on this, but for people that may have come late, how does nDatalyze make money?
Razor blade model. We got the razor, we got the razor blade. The razor can be looked at as an annual subscription, subscription. And the idea is that you do it once a year. You may be wanting to go back and change some attributes. You may want to share it with other people. You can do that by buying a razor blade. You can also make money by referrals, a significant amount of money. I'm talking about, when I say money for referrals, I'm talking about on a $2.99 sale, you get $100 for a referral. That's a significant amount. And we know that that works. We did this kind of a referral business model when we built our database. And basically what we did is we paid people hundreds of dollars for their records to come in and answer it and provide their EEG data. And then we paid them another $100 if they referred somebody else that came in. And that caused the whole data gathering to accelerate immensely. It worked incredibly well. Now, I know it's not exactly the same thing, but the point is referrals work as long as the referral fee is large enough. So we're going to go that way as far as the penetration. But again, it's a razor and razor blade model, annual subscriptions. So it's repeat business and it's more business. So we want, not only do we want the repeat business, we want to be able to take the razor blade and implement it inside that. And we also want to have it repetitive so that and referral based so that it expands more quickly. We want subscriptions and we want expansion for penetration as fast as possible.
All right, terrific. Well, thank you, Jim. And thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Today's webinar recording will soon be made available on nDatalyze's website. If you have any additional questions that have not been addressed on this webinar, please feel free to email us at nDatalyze@rbmilestone.com. Again, that's nDatalyze@rbmilestone.com. Thank you, and you are now free to disconnect.
Goodbye, everyone.